Hi, I'm Kate Hula. This is for our Module 16 assessment or assignment. Our essential question was, as advanced educational professionals, how would you apply data and data analysis to ensure your continuous improvement plan is focused on closing gaps? So data analysis is really important for our students because it lets us see areas that they might be struggling in so we can kind of help close those gaps. One thing that my school does is we meet regularly to go over PLC data. So for math and reading, we meet once a week to kind of go over what our students are being successful in and then what areas they are struggling, so what weaknesses they might have. So what we do is we compare that data, so like their reading levels and their math scores, and kind of see what conclusions we can draw. So, for example, one thing that we noticed in our second grade math is they have a hard time adding and subtracting when the number sentence is mixed around because they are always used to seeing it blank plus blank equals blank or blank minus blank equals blank. So when the order is mixed, they have a hard time with that. So to kind of help close that gap, we decided that we would start just meeting with students during our math center time at our teacher center so that they have more of a one-on-one and can have additional support to kind of help grow in that area. Another thing that we do is we fill out Google Forms. So we talk about our data and then see what is the data showing us and then what steps need to be taken because of the data. Well, because of our students having a hard time with the number sentence order, we knew that we had to take a step and work on it during our teacher center. Another thing that we do is our school has several at-risk students. So we have to really work on building relationships with kids because we know that's the only way that they will learn is if they feel safe and loved. So we meet and go regularly, like quarterly or during our in-services, and we have a book study. Right now we're doing restorative practices, and we go over what strategies are in the books that we can use or what information do they give us that can help us bring it back into the classroom. So one step that we did to help close those gaps is we started doing morning meetings. So we did that last year, and it's kind of helped us build more relationships with the kids one-on-one, but also with their classmates, to their other classmates. So.
Gotcha. I have one question actually, but I'm gonna jump in here. I was wondering, I see that you're talking about home lives and stuff, and that's a huge thing with kids. Mm-hmm. Especially even in Salina, it's bigger than my school's just north of Salina. It's a little bit smaller, but right. I know you've got a lot going on there. And I was wondering, I've heard rumblings that Salina's looking at doing home visits instead of like a parent-teacher conference type of thing during mm-hmm. in-service days instead of coming in or having professional development days that way. I was just wondering what your thoughts about that would be, your feelings.
I think it would be different. I think it's something that we haven't obviously done before. I think that it has benefits because then you can kind of meet with the families and everything and see how they're doing. But then I feel like sometimes families might be a little put off with having other people come in and kind of visiting and that kind of stuff. So I guess I'm kind of mixed. I think it has benefits, but it's also kind of new, and I don't know if it's necessarily the best step. So I don't know. We'll see.
That's what I have been thinking about it too. Is also just like the safety aspect of it. Mm-hmm. I've just been a little nervous about that, but yeah. I just wanted your opinion was on that.
Right.
My question is, do you feel like you're given enough time to analyze your data?
I think for what we go over, I think it is enough time. We get 30 minutes for reading and then 45 minutes for math. Math we have a little bit longer because we started a new math program last year. We just started doing Eureka Math or Engage New York. So we kind of have a little bit longer so that we can meet specifically on that data and see how we're doing from last year to this year and seeing all that improvement. I think it is enough as of right now because we just focus on reading and math, kind of like what Katie was saying in hers. We don't teach multiple subjects like science and social studies or have a whole bunch of different classes where I have this group and then that group to compare it to. So for what I do, I think it is beneficial for right now.
My question was you talked about about relationships with students being important. Every educator believes that building relationships with students is probably the number one most important thing that we do first before whatever subject matter is that we teach. Is there any way that you guys take data on that, or if not, like how would you want to do something like that?
Yeah, it is hard to take data on it because we kind of talked about how it's not just numbers where you're like, okay, like, yep, you like me, and we move on. I think we get a lot of that data kind of more on what the students say and how they react. So like we have a lot of students who just can't control what they do. Sometimes they just act on impulse, but then they kind of come back and they apologize without being prompted to. And I think that's one indicator of perceptions data, a little bit of like, is that relationship being built where they feel comfortable to come over and apologize and talk about what they can do, how they can handle the situation next time. But at my school, we don't really take data on that. We just kind of look more on like office referrals and see if there's some correlation between like how many office referrals we've had in the past few years from when we started doing morning meeting. So I guess that would be how we take data on that. So my question is kind of going into what we were just talking about is how do you kind of collect and record perceptions data? Because at my school, we don't, as far as I know, we don't collect it and kind of keep it. And I know that's really important for us because, like I said, we have at-risk students. So it's important for us to know how our students feel and like what the parents are seeing that they like and what they see that maybe they don't like. So I was just wondering, what are good ways to collect that data and keep it?
Yeah. For my district, what we have done is 2 years ago, we wanted to start a families program. And families is where we actually have a K-12 building, well, pre-K-12 building, but the elementary is definitely on one side. So we have preschoolers through sixth graders that are in different groups. It's all across the board. So like in my family group, I have 2 preschoolers and a 6th grader and a 5th grader and a couple 2nd graders, something like that.
Oh, cool.
And the way that we took perception data with that is that we had a paper that had 10 questions on it. And it was like, questions like, do you feel safe at school? And then to answer it, they had an emoji that they could look at because the preschoolers can't read yet or anything like that. So they just would point at the emoji that kind of, showed their perception. And then I had another page where I put the tally marks. So that kind of gave us a little insight into it. And we did that before we started our families program and then after we started the families program, and we compared that data. And that really showed us that this program is beneficial and it's helping kids feel safe because they have multiple people in multiple grades where they are comfortable with them. And that's really helped build relationships there across the school.
Oh, that's cool. I like that.
I like that too. My school currently sends out a survey to parents, students, community members, stakeholders, those kind of people. I've never taken it before, but I think it's like 20 questions long, just asking kind of about the school. But my department kind of plays off of that, and we send out our own survey. I teach family and consumer science, and so there's a lot of content under that. And so we send out a survey every year to kind of get a feel for what our kids need or want from us. So I teach like culinary or cooking classes, and then the other lady in my department does like early childhood development. But then just this year, the survey came back, and the kids have showed interest in like more hands-on, like a sewing unit or something like that. So we're looking into that.
Oh, cool.
Very cool.
What we have done in the past is, and I'm coming from a high school perspective more than, not the elementary perspective, but we just use Google Forms for that. And one thing that we've done with the Google Forms that I think is really important is they scale it like 1 to 5 or very likely to absolutely not, or you know what I mean. And then because like coming from a school that has 2,000 students, it's a lot more difficult to take written responses and to be able to gain something from that. If you're looking at 2,000 to answers to be able to gain information, and so I think the way that they did it was very, very efficient, and you're able to see 77% of students said this, or we're within this range. So I think that's something that we have done with the perceptions data that has been really beneficial and efficient for being able to analyze it after.
Right. That would be a lot of people. I think for elementary and the type of kids that we have and parents that we have, because some parents just don't have, internet at home. So even though computer's great, sometimes it's not always the best. And then sometimes we don't always get anything mailed back. But for parents, I think it would be good for them to have some sort of form, Google form to fill out. But maybe instead of like having it be on their own, maybe more during conferences so that they can work on it while they're here. And then I like the idea of having the kids kind of do like a quick like color and the emoji and how they feel and stuff, because I think that's easier. Like you said, like preschool and kindergarten, they're going to have a hard time writing it. So thanks for sharing your ideas.
Yeah.